It doesn't do a whole lot of good today, and I want to talk about what we do today to mention only the long term. But it's also a mistake if we don't focus on the long term. We will get out of this recession. We will have real growth again. And when we do, we ought to have the farsightedness to build a reserve. In 2005, I was asked by the governor to put together a proposal that would fix the budget forever. What an invitation. So, feeling a little bit charged, as you would, I drafted a proposal that would have kept us to this growth limit. It became Prop 76. It went to the ballot and was defeated along with all 4 of Governor Schwarzenegger's initiatives in 2005. Perhaps AFSCME members most specifically remember the other initiatives on the ballot, the one involving union dues for state employee union members and whether they could be used for political purposes with the approval of the individual union member. You might remember there was a redistricting initiative, and there was also an initiative that teachers in K through 12 should get tenure at 5 years instead of 2. Well, the one that nobody seems to remember anymore is the one that I drafted, and that was Prop 76. One of the reasons it failed, it was very long, very intricate, very boring, and I couldn't explain it quickly. But I'm trying today. What it would have done is to say, don't increase spending faster than the rate of growth of revenue. And then we had a 10-year average. And any year where revenue drops, catch it early, so that the legislature had 45 days to fix the problem, and if they didn't, then across-the-board cuts would go in immediately, so you wouldn't have a huge cut, which we have today. You'd have smaller cuts a lot earlier. Well, that would have been one long-term way of solving this. The other would have been go back to the law that we had, which I described just a moment ago, from 1979 to 1988, which was the limit, don't spend more next year than you did the previous year, increased by inflation and population. A third approach is one I particularly like because it doesn't require Democrats or Republicans either to give up their principles. It's curiously what the state of Arkansas does. There's very few occasions when I'll suggest that California follow the Arkansas model, but this is one of them. What they do is they collect the taxes one year, put them in an interest-bearing account, and don't spend them till the next. That way, everybody knows how much money there is to spend, and you never run a deficit. Democrats and Republicans disagree in good faith about how the money should be spent, and sometimes they disagree about how much money we should have to spend, whether we should be taxed higher or lower. But everybody knows how much money there is. By contrast, what happens in Sacramento, and I know because I was a state senator as well as the finance director, is you budget on what you think the state is going to have. And everybody's optimistic. Can you imagine being elected if you weren't an optimist? Whoever votes for a pessimist, vote for me, things are bad. It doesn't really happen that often. So people are optimistic, and they say, let's just assume this recession will end very, very soon. Let's assume that capital gains will start coming in again, and the income tax on capital gains from the stock market rising will give us a lot of money. But the problem is it doesn't happen, and then you budget it at a higher number. So the safer thing is to follow Arkansas. That's my third recommendation for the long term. I know, I'm sorry. Raise the money one year, put it in an interest-bearing account. Everyone knows how much there is to spend the next year. And also, if you have a problem, you see it coming a year ahead of time, don't you? So those are three long-term solutions that we would have. And had we followed that rule, we would have been able to keep California on a very even level of expenditure, gradually rising with population and inflation. Take a look, please, at that chart again on page 7, and particularly take a look, if you would, at 2005-6 to 2006-7. This is a most remarkable comparison, but it tells you a lot. This was a good year. It was the year after I left, when I went back to being dean. Revenue went up by $2 billion from 93.5 to 95.5. And expenditure went up from 91.6 to 101.4. I'm sorry, that's irresponsible. We borrowed, even though we had more money coming in than the previous year. We borrowed from every possible reserve account that we could and spent it. Well, you see what happens then. 2008 and 9, we have a huge drop in revenue, and who knows what the numbers really are for 2009 and 10. So that's my long-term approach. It's not fiscally responsible to continue to spend on the basis of what we would like to have. And it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the good people you serve. And I could make the same presentation at a school gathering. It's not fair to the school districts, it's not fair to the students to have a budget that's in doubt, to have layoffs. San Jose Unified has announced that they're going to 30 students per class in K through 3. So all of our good effort at bringing down class size, where you learn better, is gone for this coming year. LA Unified has announced that they can no longer hire Teach for America students or graduates from college because they can't afford it. All of that because we didn't plan. Now, what about the near term? What about the immediate? I don't know if you've noticed, I hope you have, but if you haven't, I would urge you to. I created a plan and announced it the day before the special election on May 18th. And then I put it on the web, and I invited people's comments and suggestions, and I held a news conference in Sacramento. It was easy because it was the only debate that's happened in this whole campaign, and so the Sacramento Press Corps was there, and I was able to say, here's my budget plan. You'll see it laid out in detail at campbell.org, and not every part of it will be agreeable to every person here. I know that. But it's sincere on my part. I'm asking for suggestions. If I've got it wrong, let me hear a better way. What I didn't want to do, and here's the only slight swipe I'll make at other folks running for office. It's slight. It is Sunday morning. I'm going to be very charitable. Is you can't balance the budget, and you shouldn't try to run for governor telling people only generalities. You ought to lay it out. And if they disagree, fine. So that's the only swipe. And you'll find my details there. Among the generalities are, I'll run the state like a business. Oh, good, like Wall Street. Or like General Motors. or others that we'll balance the budget if only we make the wealthy pay their fair share, or if only we cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Please, if anybody tells you they can balance the budget by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse, throw them out. I'd love to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. So would all of you. I don't know anybody who stands for waste, fraud, or abuse. It'd be interesting if somebody stood for one but not the other. I'm in favor of waste but against fraud. So my first point is be specific. We cannot solve our present crisis with taxation alone. The reason is the following. We run the risk of being the last state to recover from this recession, that 49 states will lead out and will be last. And one of the reasons why is shown on the next page, if you turn to page 8. Again, check me, I'm giving you the website so you can look at them yourself. But these are the tax rates in the state of California. And when a business decides to locate here, that business considers how much the employees need to be paid. And because we tax higher than other states,